One small, unimportant decision that you made that changed the whole trajectory of your life.
The small, unimportant decision I made that changed the trajectory of my life was to do a brief presentation. This was my career for 9 years. I had done presentations once or twice a month at energy conferences, which is the field I work in, doing webinars and in-person events. And I went to 1 or 2 a month or hosted them myself, probably anywhere between 15 and 20 conferences a year for 9 years. And then I did one for the Georgia Public Service Commission. And the reason that one changed my life was because I presented some content from a study we did on rates and rate design for electricity for residential consumers. Because by all accounts, the way electricity is priced is inefficient and wasteful. And so the staff at the commission asked me to present some findings from a study that we had just published that showed one type of rate plan, demand charges, harms low-income consumers and people living in small dwellings like apartments and small homes, that it actually harms them by raising their bills. And so I presented that finding to the commission, and because I live in Georgia, I followed up on it. Normally I don't follow up on my presentations. The organization I worked for was an energy nonprofit with a national platform, so the research we presented was to energy industry leaders, consultants, and utilities all across the United States. But because this one was in Georgia, and since it's where I live, I followed up on it and I learned that the commission passed that rate plan, which was a demand charge rate plan that Georgia Power wanted. I found out later on because they knew it would raise bills and would harm low-income customers. And at that time in 2019, I was still naive and I was shocked because I couldn't believe that Georgia Power would actually harm low-income customers on purpose. And I didn't believe that the Georgia Public Service Commissioner would allow it because Georgia Power is a monopoly and the Georgia Public Service Commission, like every state, is supposed to be regulating the monopoly to serve the public interest. Monopolies in the United States are illegal. They don't get to just do whatever they want like they used to do in the robber baron era. We have state agencies that supposedly protects the public from monopoly, pricing, abuse, power, and overreach. So when this rate plan passed, I went to see one of the commissioners, Commissioner Tim Eccles, because he's the most approachable and I knew him. And so when I went to see him, I asked him why this rate plan passed when it clearly hurt people. And he said it didn't pass. And I had the orders with me that the commission had issued showing it passed. And I said, well, here are the orders. And he said, well, that's a draft. You don't have the final one. The final one doesn't have that because we wouldn't do that. When my assistant is back in the office tomorrow, she'll send you the one that shows you that it didn't pass. So then I went back to my office and the next day she sent me the ones that I had, which boggled my mind because that means the commissioner didn't know what had passed. And that put me in the awkward position of telling a state regulatory commissioner what his own commission did. But I finally figured out a polite and professional way to word that. Sir, you were wrong. It did pass, and I would like to meet with you to discuss it. And he said, actually meet with my guy, Tom. He knows all about these rate plans, and he'll explain it to you. And so I wrote back in an email. I said, with all due respect, Commissioner, I know how the rate plan works, and I don't need to meet with Tom. Who I need to meet with is you, because I want to know why you voted for it, and Tom can't tell me that. So he agreed, and I went back in to meet with him, and he sat down and he said, I don't know why you think people can't save money on this rate plan. They clearly can. And I said, well, Commissioner, because I have 4 studies that shows it can't. They can't, because by then I had found other studies besides my own. But what do you have? Do you have a study? Maybe I missed one. He said, no, I don't have a study. It's just what I think. What? It's just what you think? Your job is to know, not just guess from your gut. What people pay for electricity is of critical importance. That's literally your job, is to understand these issues. Of course, I didn't say that to him, but I was very upset and he knew it. And when I walked out, I thought, wow, this guy is bad. This is much worse than I ever imagined. I've got to figure out what else he's been doing because this can't be the only bad thing he's done. And sure enough, it wasn't. The more I looked into his record, his voting record, the things he's done, his resolutions, and his pretense to the community, of which I was fooled, that he's a good guy, that he's looking out for you, that he's protecting Georgia's families, which is what his website says. They were all lies. He actually is a wolf in sheep's clothing. He pretends to be a good guy, folksy, charming. Then he goes back to the commission and votes to stab you in the back. But there's no way you can know that because state commissions don't put votes on their website like legislators do. There's literally no way. Well, not literally. There is a way. But it's really hard, especially for the public, to know if their commissioners are good or not. And that was my challenge, is what to do about what I discovered. So I ended up quitting my job of 10 years by this point. Great job, corner office, great team, got to travel all over the country. By 10 years in, it was a pretty easy job, but I just couldn't let go with what had happened, what I knew was happening to the people of Georgia. And that rate plan did pass. As I said, it went into effect. Over 10,000 people got put on it. And a study 2 years later showed that 92% of those people were paying much higher bills. Some people were paying double bills. We're not talking a couple dollars a month here. We're talking a bill that's $58 turns into $120. It's terrible because the people that were affected were the marginalized and vulnerable people of Georgia. And Georgia Power has an enormous disconnect rate of over 25,000 Georgia families every single month. In 2022, last year, Georgia Power disconnected over 400,000 Georgia families. Who knows how many of them were because of this rate plan. So that all has been very upsetting to me. I left my job. I decided to run for office to unseat this commissioner because I knew too much and I knew no one else could run because I know where the bodies are buried. I know what's going on at the commission. And so that's the inconsequential decision it seemed at the time to do a presentation to the commission that ended up changing my life.